Today, folks, we're going to test a raccoon's reaction to a variety of seafood. And to top it off, Hype is going to meet a giant live sturgeon. The idea to see how a raccoon would react to such a large fish was born during a family feast. The main course was stuffed sturgeon. Of course, I never forgot the raccoon, so I took a tidbit for him to try. But something went wrong. The raccoon just ignored the fish. The lack of interest was probably due to the spices in the dish. After all, believe me, raccoons are very fish-eating, not indifferent to various seafood. It is not for nothing that these furry animals live near rivers and swamps, as their main food in the wild is various fish, frogs, and other wildlife that is so easy for raccoons to catch in shallow waters. Hype never refused dried fish. What is more, if such a treat falls into the paws of a raccoon, then try to take it away. It will cling on tightly, even if it does not want to eat. And Hype loves raw fish. He has been seen repeatedly stealing fresh fish. If the raccoon wasn't at all interested in the fish dish, let's see how he feels about meeting a live sturgeon. By the way, this will not be Hype's first encounter with live fish. We filmed something similar a little over a year ago, but it was a small crucian carp. The raccoon chased them around the bathtub for quite a long time, having arranged an unreal fishing trip. But all went well, and after the encounter with the raccoon, the fish were released back into the pond. I wonder how Hype will feel about other seafood. Let's find out. Let's get the raccoon ready to meet the big boss. And the first thing we're going to test the raccoon's reaction to is shrimp. These crustaceans are a source of iodine and calcium, which are essential for both our bodies and the raccoons. The first thing Hype did was sniff around. Then he gave each shrimp a massage. He even kissed some of them, but only a few he decided to eat. Despite his interest, he simply dumped most of the seafood out of the bowl and scattered it on the floor. While Hype played with the shrimp, we went fishing. But not just to any body of water where we might catch something after a few hours, but to the supermarket. And we mean it, because we brought an aquarium with a capacity of 70 liters of water. Since the goal of our fishing trip is a really big sturgeon, we need an appropriate aquarium for it. Of course, we did not bring water with us. We will collect the necessary amount of water in the toilet. What you don't do to make new videos. Well, the aquarium is there, the water is there, and that means we can go fishing. And while we're busy looking for the right size sturgeon, Hype is getting ready to meet another type of seafood, mussels. These amazing sea creatures are classified as mollusks, and they're also rich in trace minerals like zinc, manganese, copper, and iodine. While I was listing them, Hype had already started sniffing and examining the mussels. The clams were more interesting to the raccoon than the shrimp. Here, and the shell is quite interestingly shaped, and the clam was extremely intriguing to the raccoon. What is interesting is that Hype really liked one of the shells. He left it on the ground about 10 times, but kept coming back to examine it. While the raccoon was testing the strength of the shell, it was time to catch a sturgeon. We immediately spotted the right fish in the aquarium, and the sturgeon did not seem to mind being in our video. Jumping into the net, strangely enough, it sat quietly in the bag for a long time, which is uncharacteristic for a live fish. The fish was quite comfortable in the aquarium with the water in the car, so we just had to get it into the car. We put the aquarium in the car, and this sturgeon is ready to meet the raccoon. By the way, what's he doing now? Well, the raccoon isn't idle either. It's time for him to meet the oyster. Like mussels, oysters are marine mollusks. By the way, you only need to eat 6 oysters to get your daily mineral intake. The oysters I have are called fin de clareur and come from France. Let's see if Hype is interested in such a useful mollusk. But that's not all. To taste, the oyster must be removed from its thick and hard shell. We take a thick knife and gently pierce one of the flaps. Inside the shell, there is some salty seawater, which is also an important element for eating. We do not sprinkle lemon juice on it, as is customary, of course, because we are interested in Hype's reaction to this product in its pure form. The raccoon immediately began to examine the French seafood delicacy, but without much interest. Apparently, genetics do not allow Hype to eat seafood. As we said, the raccoon's habitat is near rivers and swamps, not French beaches. For this reason, Hype pulled a shell out of his house with his paws and started to play with it. Strangely enough, the shell turned out to be much more interesting to the raccoon than the food itself. After studying the shell, the raccoon still touched the slippery mollusk with his paws, but nothing more. Oysters are oysters, but the highlight of the program should not be forgotten. This is the moment of truth. Originally, we wanted to move the fish to the prepared bathroom so that the raccoon could interact with it more easily. But Hype wouldn't even let us do that, and no wonder when you have such a big sturgeon in front of you. The first thing the raccoon did was to keep his distance from the aquarium as small as possible, and he began to examine its inhabitant from the outside with interest. He even tried to catch a peacefully swimming fish with his tail. After climbing to the edge of the tank, Hype began to make new attempts to catch the sturgeon, balancing on one paw. From this position, he began new attempts to catch the wily fish. Finally, comfortably positioned so as not to urinate completely, the raccoon began to massage the sturgeon. It seemed that Hype had made a new friend. At one point, the raccoon became so interested in fishing that he dove into the tank with his head. I was afraid for him for a second. To avoid underwater hunting, we moved the sturgeon to the bathroom, and the acquaintance continued. The raccoon cautiously climbed into the bathtub and continued to touch the sturgeon with interest. The fish itself, however, did not try to swim away from its sudden friend, but remained in place, occasionally splashing its tail. After getting quite wet, the raccoon decided to get out of the tub to dry off. Well, the raccoon's reaction to meeting such a huge fish was really interesting. It's time for the raccoon to dry off after such an adventure. That's it for now. Bye-bye.